So today in the room I have Dexter Kishida. He is the Farm to School Coordinator for the School Food Service branch. Food service. Dexter actually used to work at Kokua Hawai'i Foundation. He was a school food coordinator in 2006 to 2009. And it was at that time when Kokua Hawai'i Foundation decided we were going to dive head into school food and we were going to change the system. And after 3 years, Dexter said, we kind of decided that a nonprofit can't change the system, and so the change has to come from within. And as Lauren reminded me that the Department of Education is a very large ship, and it takes some time to turn the ship. And so Dexter and his team in School Food Service Branch have done a tremendous job in turning the ship around school food, so he's going to be sharing about that. We have Danny Garcia. He is the principal at Kohala Elementary School on Hawai'i Island. And then we have Kat Jones, and she is a school garden coordinator and teacher at Kohala Elementary School. And then we have Ray, and Ray actually helped to found Pomaikai Elementary School, which is an arts integrated school on Maui, and she's now at district office in Maui. And we have Tyler, we have our student voice. We always talk about the kids, right? And we went round and round. We always have the kids at the end. And I'm like, I know, but they're the closer. So you're definitely the first. But today we're going to save you till last, okay? So just a gentle reminder. So Danny's going to focus on school design. We have our two teachers in the middle who will be speaking to teacher collaboration. And then we'll hear student voice. And we're going to start out today with Dexter Kishida.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Hopefully I can sort of frame the rest of the panelists in talking about partly the why. I know it's preaching to the choir, but I get to live this every day. So I have the privilege of seeing why what you do is so important to our kids. And our mission in school food services changed in the last 2 years. Our mission now has an education component, that what we do is to set our kids up to be ready to learn. Prior to 2 years ago, our mission was just to feed kids inexpensive, good food. But now, that's not a very inspiring mission. But we reminded our managers and our staff that what we do is integral, is really important to getting the kids ready as we prepare them a great breakfast, as we serve them a lunch, to empower kids to learn throughout the full school day. And in some of our areas, this is the only hot meal or only hot meals that our kids are getting. So what they do is of vital importance. It's a little small, but we also broke down to 5 goals that we're going to achieve. We implemented the Aina Pono program and really integrated it into who and what we are. The value system that comes with serving good food to kids is getting woven into every aspect of what we do. Everything from buying more local and part of our goal 1 to reducing waste and starting with getting rid of styrofoam in all of our schools, looking at alternative ways to serve our kids, not only what we serve our kids. The second goal of increasing student participation, that if we're going to have great food, we should be able to measure it by increase in participation, that more kids should be eating. But along with that, not only should they be participating in getting a meal, but they should be eating it. Because if they're not eating it, then what's the point? I guess we'll have really happy pig farmers, or we'll have really happy trash receptacles, but there's no point if our kids aren't going to eat it, which brings me to a point I'll hit on later on a little bit. Number 4 is being cost neutral, that we still need to be fiscally responsible. And as I talk to farmers and other organizations, they kind of freak out because as a whole, local products are costing a little bit more. And once we say cost neutral, they're like, well, you're never going to buy our stuff then. Well, I said, you're right. Our schools will just grow it ourselves. No, I don't make that threat yet. And so that is the threat soon if they're not going to step up to the plate. But being cost neutral is important. And what it means is finding the efficiencies in the system to be able to afford better food. And the last one that's going to assist number 4, and actually all of them, is systems modernization, getting data. We get tons of calls from some of you, in fact, about about just how much food we waste, or what kind of food do we waste, or things like that. And we have very little data currently. We can tell you how many students participate, but in our systems modernization, we want to know what the pre and post-production food waste is. We want to know just actually quite a lot of data points that we need not our staff to be manually recording, but to be housed in a centralized data system that we can pull reports from. Right now, if you ask how much local we do at a certain school, I literally have to pull cases of paper and manually put it into a spreadsheet. In the next 2 years, that's going to go away, so we modernize our systems. It also leads to better transparency. But as we do the system change, right? Aina Pono is leading in our school food services, the systems change. There's 2 things that are of vital importance to this, and it all leads to kids playing with their food. That if we're going to increase participation and increase consumption of what they eat, then kids playing with their food is going to be of vital importance. And it got highlighted over 2 meetings this week. I was talking to Waianae schools, and actually I was really impressed. Student presentation, and they said, why do you only give us like 2 leaves of lettuce on a plate? If you're going to give us lettuce, give us a salad. Don't just give us 2 leaves. And the concept from the staff was, well, you don't eat the salad anyway, so I'm only going to give you 2 leaves. But having that conversation, hearing from students, but also understanding that there's education that was happening in the school. There were school gardens happening at the school. So the kids actually were prepped to want to eat more salad. As a cafeteria manager, I got to experience from kids that were in the garden never eating anything red but a Redondo's hot dog to now eating a tomato. So personally experiencing that kind of change, but it happens really 2 ways. Nutrition education is important because that knowledge base is key. But until kids play with their food through actually cooking, and it could be simple as making smoothies to getting their hands dirty in a garden, are the 2 ways that I've seen true systemic change happening in teaching kids lifelong eating habits. And I mean, it's something they're going to do the rest of their life, I think. Most of us plan to eat the rest of our life, and I think they do too. So let's teach them how to eat the best. But thank you.
Well, you make me want to go on that topic, but I'm going to talk about school design, specifically how, as a principal, any other school principals, school leaders here?
Show of hands, school leaders in the room.
Okay, I was just saying, usually I'm the only principal at these meetings. But so when we opened up the garden in 2010, and Nancy Redfeather helped me out. But first, by the way, I got to give a shout out to Mala'ai Garden and Pauilo Elementary Schools, because those 2 gardens were my models when I opened up the garden. The next question was, okay, so once and it was an easy sell for my faculty and staff. And I pitched it to them. I'd like to open up a school garden, actually re-establish a school garden at Kohala Elementary School. It was there. There was FFA. There was Victory Gardens after World War II. So it was an area that the old-timers knew about. The aunties in the kitchen, they remember being down there as students. Then it's, okay, how we're going to get a teacher. How are we going to do this? How are we going to design a program? And again, talking to Amanda and then Donna Mitz at Pauilo Elementary School, getting some ideas. So the first year was PTT, and the Kohala Center matched. So basically, I had school funds for a 17-hour PTT, and they funded the rest to get a 40-hour school garden teacher. And I interviewed about 6 people, very excited to teach, and the one that stood out was Ko Ming Wei. And after that year, she became Dr. Ko Ming Wei. So I'm very proud that she was able to do her dissertation. She came to me and said, Mr. Garcia, I'm doing a doctoral program, and can I do it, at your school, doing this garden? And she was able, and we went back and forth, and I had no idea what that was about. But I watched her go through this process, and we talked about what data we're going to keep and the surveys. And in the end of 1 year, collecting all of that information for her dissertation. It was really neat to see that process. So the next year, we didn't get the funding from Kohala Center, but the next 2 years, I kept the PTT position. And it really kind of set us back because we went from a 40-hour garden teacher to a PTT position, 17 hours a week. And then the fourth year, I didn't have PTT funds, and so we tried by committee, teacher, a volunteer committee, parent volunteers, and that year really struggled. We really struggled in the garden. That's when Nancy Redfeather again suggested Food Corps. That's when we heard of Food Corps. And now we're in our 6th year with Food Corps, and it was the best deal in town. It started at $6,500 a year for really from September through July at 35 hours a week. And it was amazing. But the interns, it's really an internship, and they was living like just above poverty level. But, it's amazing talent out of Food Corps, and Food Corps has been so supportive, and I really appreciate Food Corps. So Food Corps was really the saving grace. Once we got on board with Food Corps, then our garden program just thrived. It took a turn for the better. And then leads me up to this year, where, I don't know if you recall, the year they did away with Junior K in kindergarten, and we have right now across the state, grade 4 is a smaller grade. That's when they did a cutoff where you got to be 5 years old before the first day of school instead of December 31st. So one position in my one grade, we went down to 2 teachers, and last year, it dawned on me that, you know what, maybe I have an extra Article 6 position, which is funded through special education, and you get an allotment by how many SPED students, special education students you have in your school population. Fortunately, I was able to get Miss Jones here, who's an Article 6 teacher, and I proposed it to my CAS and the Hawai'i Pro, the personnel resource officer, and I said, hey, you know what? I know that Article 6 teachers, traditionally, you stick them in a classroom, you give them about 5 to 6 SPED students, and that's an extra classroom. Can I have my garden teacher teach STEM in the garden to every SPED student on campus? And they both are like, hey, great idea. So that's how I'm funding. I'm using a full-blown Article 6 teacher in Miss Jones this year and next year. So but the catch to that is once that 5th grade class moves on to 6th grade, the Article 6 teacher has to go back into, well, it doesn't have to, but it goes back. I'm committing that teacher position to go back in a classroom. Then it becomes, again, how will I fund a garden teacher? It's $56,000 for a teacher position. And so that would be the greatest challenge for any school leader or school principal. But that's the school design, the garden design we got right now. Thanks.
Well, hi, I'm Nancy Cat Jones. I am the lucky teacher in the garden. I feel so honored, and I feel a little humbled today to be among such expertise here. This first year in the garden has been a real learning year for me, a real learning curve, I have to say. And I'm looking forward to next year, where we're just going to fly in our garden. Danny asked that I speak a little bit about the next generation science standards. I am the STEM teacher at our school, assigned to the garden. And it's much, much more than STEM. But STEM is intertwined in everything that we do, and it's amazingly easy in the garden. I get to teach every child almost every week for about 40 minutes. We have students that come down to the garden for therapy, and in the afternoons, I teach STEM science classes with the teachers in the garden. Usually, I ask the teachers, is there a next generation science standard that you're struggling with, that you would like some help with? So they direct me. They're playing with it this year in the classrooms, trying out next generation science standards. What are these? And so I'm able to get them started or do ongoing projects in the garden that relate to the next generation science standards. There's some wonderful curriculum out there that I use as a roadmap, and I'm very excited to have Tiana's curriculum now as well for our littles, as we call them in the garden. So I have to say, I've got the best job in the DOE. I feel very happy. I love going to work. Some days I'm like, dang, they pay me to come and play with these kids in the garden. We cook. Dexter, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Cooking is so important. And next generation science standards, it's right there. Chemical change, you apply heat, you know, it's all in the garden. It really is. You can teach almost every single standard in your garden. So let's see, what else can I tell you about the education part? It's fun. It's outdoors. It's therapeutic. Every kid has an opportunity to really excel in the garden. So Danny mentioned that I have all of the SPED kids. I have all of our at-risk kids. And for me, I can't really tell a difference in the garden. And what a wonderful thing. Everybody can come and shine in their own way. So they like to build. We have lots of building projects. They like to dig and use that shovel. We've got lots of shoveling projects that they can do in the garden. So there's something for everyone in the garden, and everyone can grow and shine. I think that's enough.
I gotta stand up. Okay, got the clicker. All right, I can't talk and click at the same time. And I gotta stand up. So I'm Ray Takemoto. I've been teaching. I've been in the DOE for 32 plus years and an educator for a long time. In the classroom, taught preschool to 6th grade. And most recently, lately, has been, in the last 20 years, has been focused on arts integration. So you might be thinking, click, where's the clicker? Oh. Okay, why arts integration? This is not an arts integration deal here, this is garden. But garden is about integration. And I'm here today to talk about teacher collaboration in the garden. Okay. So when I think about teacher collaboration, by the way, our school, Pomaika'i School on Maui, is an arts integration neighborhood school, and it's built because, well, the only way we could have done this is because it's through teacher collaboration. So it's always been a foundational practice for us. When you think of teacher collaboration, I think about taking individual strengths, right, and pulling people together as individuals into a team, into a group, and working for the same cause, the same task, and the same vision. Thanks. All right, so I took, the implementation plan. It's a good implementation plan, right? So the teacher collaboration part, I pulled all that stuff, all that wording there. My husband told me way too many words. Yes, but I highlighted the verbs because collaboration is action. It's about doing. And so I highlighted the verbs and verb phrases. I know I had more than just verbs in there, teachers. Because I'm going to talk about how collaboration, what it looks like with those verbs. Okay. All right, so what does teacher collaboration look like? Teachers continuously team to evaluate practice and discuss student progress. That's not new to us, right? You might be looking at that going, but that's not the garden, that's a classroom. Those teachers are bringing in their science notebooks with the science notebooks of their students that they've done in the garden. And they're calibrating, they're sharing what they're doing with each other, with the, among the grade levels, so they're getting a K-5 calibration as well as practices across. Okay, what else does it look like? It's about teachers designing learning collaboratives. So I think of learning collaboratives, and I'm going to come from the point of view of teachers getting to collaborate, right? Opportunities for teachers to team and learn, and there's so many different ways. In this slide, in the bottom corner, one year we didn't have enough PD money. We didn't have money for our school. So we pulled on teacher strengths. We're a strength-based school, collaboration school, right? Pulled on teacher strengths, and the teachers taught the STEAM lessons. There we have our Aina in the school, summer. And so sometimes collaborating around learning opportunities involves bringing people in. And then there's collaborating to learn with each other as partners or pairs. And that's most often done, right? 2 people, 3 people, grade level groups, because it's easier to get together. All right, there's other ways, and I really, really want to talk about our garden education community organizations. Our state is so lucky. I think we're so lucky because the garden education peeps are just the most caring, passionate, smart people. And they're willing to give because they believe in the children, and they believe in our schools, and they believe in education and in our teachers. And so pull on them. Pull on them to build teacher collaborations by bringing them in, bringing them in for professional development. So your teachers are collaborating, learning together, talking together, and then planning together with the help of our garden educators. All right, what else does garden collaboration look like? It's also about teachers identifying community opportunities. So within your community, you have your garden educators, but you have more. There are a lot of organizations that have the same vision for our children. And so at our school, that's what we do. We create opportunities for our teachers to collaborate, and we take them out. On the top one is Hawaiian Island Land Trust in Waihe'e. So took the teachers over there and pulled on Scotty Fisher's mana'o about the ahupua'a and what it was like before and how it is now and what we're trying to restore and how we can partner as schools. So you see that community, that organization, and the school and teachers are planning together to create a really relevant, rich learning environment for the kids. Same with the Maui Botanic Gardens. Okay, so that's going out, and if I was you, I would be thinking, well, how do you get all your teachers over there? How do you make the time for that, right? And so those are on waiver days. The other one is Blue Zones. Call Blue Zones to come into your schools, and they will support you. They will support you with, educating on healthy lifestyles and plan with teachers so teachers can sit and collaborate. Okay, so with great change and great vision also comes challenges. And so teachers, what do we do as collaborators? We gotta meet those challenges, right? At our school, we went through some transition years in our garden, and it was a mess. And so our teachers like, where are we gonna learn in garden? Bless you. Also, with resources, in the classroom, you have tons of things to teach. You think, how do I fit this in? So teachers collaborate to solve it. Okay. And so at Pomaikai, the teachers brought in the community organizations, the garden people, parents, and our kids, of course, cleaned up the garden so the kids would have a safe and healthy and beautiful place to learn in. And when it comes to curriculum, it fits perfectly, as Nancy said, in STEM, but in our school, it's STEAM. So the science, the technology, the engineering, those are kids designing a water catchment system out of found objects and testing it out in the garden, because we had a day where the water wasn't working at school. and the kids had to go home. So they thought, who's going to water the plants? And so that's how that project was designed. Arts and math, measurement, proportion, right? Perfect for garden. Okay. So I want to close with the garden learning and teacher collaboration. You can't, to me, it's just the perfect match. And because all of us, teachers, adults, and children all deserve to thrive and to be in our aina and to be in our place, to be in our gardens. One more. And close with this quote. None of us, including me, ever do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. And together we can do something wonderful. That's Mother Teresa. So, having a garden in your school and collaborating with teachers is hard. Collaboration is hard. You have to be vulnerable to collaborate. You got to open yourself up. You got to compromise. You got to problem solve. You got to give as much and take. And so I always say, if you put the child in the center and you hold them in front of you, it makes all the challenges of collaboration and all the wonders and awesomeness of collaboration come alive. Okay, thanks.
Aloha, my name is Tyler Levine. It's been such an honor. It is such an honor growing up in Hawaii, and I've always felt such a deep connection to Mother Earth and a pure love for life. Whenever I have the choice, nature is where I want to be, in the mountains and the ocean, surrounded by their peace and calm. And ever since I was young, I never liked the city because like the towering buildings and the man-made depleting energy that was buzzing around everywhere, but in the present, in the moment. And I started to understand that not everyone respected or honored Mother Earth as much as maybe some other people did, or weren't open to her as much. So my school experience from pre-K to 3rd grade was pretty amazing. Every day at school was an adventure. I made lots of friends and enjoyed learning. At recess, I'd play chase or go into the garden, like in my own world, like talking to the fairies. But then in 4th grade, my life was kind of taken over by complex pain. And I was limited from all the things I love to do, like running and paddling, surfing, hiking, just being out in nature. I could still do, but all of the movement I was limited from, and kind of took me under into a very dark place, and it kind of closed my heart to the world. And at school, I became very scared of everything. I was so sensitive. The only place I felt safe and comfortable and at peace was in our garden or in like raw nature. And so every day I would go into my garden and just be for as long as I could while balancing out classes, of course. But I think that dirt was the reason that I graduated 4th grade, because it was always there. The plants were there to support me and guide me, and they shared with me all these beautiful messages and ancient teachings. And as the plants grew, I healed. So in my last year of Kohala, or Lanikai, now Kohala School, in Lanikai, Kailua, here, I started to open my heart and speak out to the public about honoring Mother Earth and planting gardens. And I created a garden there of my own to show my thanks and gratitude to all the teachers and students that were by my side the whole healing, eye-opening journey. So today in our society, we're at a very critical time. Right now, we have the choice to continue scarring our earth, or we can have pride in our future by taking care of honoring Mother Earth. And I feel like gardens are a great start to that. This whole world is a garden. And that like, when there's gardens, we can show that by planting a seed in this world and nourishing it, then it can provide so much for us all. But at the same time, if we neglect the seed of life, then it can disappear and vanish. So I can't really imagine my experience, or my school experience, without the garden there by my side, guiding me throughout the whole time. And I was truly touched and inspired by everything I learned, the give and take relationship, how to even nourish myself, because I wasn't taking good care of myself. And I really learned how to take care of myself and the world, and heal myself to heal the world and everyone around me. So we, the children, are the seeds, everyone. We're the seeds of the future, and we need to be nourished and watered with the true education of honoring our earth through the teaching of gardens in schools. And sometimes, if like our society continues on this path of treating nature like it's a warehouse, we could end up like a rainforest in a drought, withering away and like forgetting our place and our purpose. So thank you for letting me be here today, and that's all I have to say.
Okay. Here we go. For Dexter, are there guidelines for school garden products being used in culinary classes or cafeteria kitchen? You have a mic.
Oh, that's right. I also have a loud voice, but are there guidelines? Yes, don't kill our kids, number one. On the educational side, it really is a conversation between you and your administration. On the cafeteria side, the Farm to School Hui is actually working on a project this year. Hopefully tomorrow we can kind of seal the deal on this draft of a garden to cafeteria plan. My new director, Albert Scales, who took his position almost 2 years ago. One of his desires is to figure out this garden to cafeteria, and the biggest thing is liability. And so Lydie and her team are coming up with some good risk management procedures to put in place, which I personally also think would be great to implement no matter what you're doing with the garden produce, because they're just really good agricultural practices that are also practical. We could have taken Primus Labs review and processes and just said, do that, but a lot of it's just not practical for us in a school. So garden to cafeteria, not quite yet. Hopefully in the next year we'll have things ready to go. Garden to your classroom, work it out with your administrator, but there's no rules. I'm going to do a double negative. I have to think about this again. There isn't, I don't know, what am I trying to say? There are no rules stating you can't use produce. Does that come out right? I think that's not, yeah. So you can do it. You can do it. It's just work with your administrator, because I do know some CASs have a few more concerns than others, and so honor your leadership. But if you need some backup, feel free to Lotus Notes or give me a call, and I can help also maybe educate the complex area superintendent or the principal on what can legally happen, as well as what level of risk the principal is willing to assume.
Great. So the Ainapono program was actually piloted at Kohala High, Middle, and Elementary School. They were the first complex for us to actually establish proof of concept that we could increase local procurement, we could reduce waste, we could increase participation, and we could actually be cost neutral. And so because Ainapono was so successful and we were able to achieve 4 of the goals that were set forth, and we've since added the 5th, we were able to bring the Ainapono program to Mililani High School, which is the 2nd largest high school in the state. And now Ainapono is being implemented throughout the DOE. So the question comes, and I'm going to give this to our friends at Kohala, are the teachers involved in getting the students to know and understand Aina Pono? And if so, do they discuss the changes in the menu with the kids?
Well, we were really fortunate that we had a chef come work with our cafeteria. He went in and rearranged the kitchen so that the ladies there could cook the food rather than just heat the food. And as part of that, the students got to taste test new menu items. What did they like? What didn't they like? Was it too spicy? Did it need more spice? So there was student voice in that and teacher involvement as well, because we got to try out the new food. And so I don't know if that really answered the question so much. Are the teachers involved? They're involved when they come down to the garden and they see what's going on. They're involved in the cooking classes in their classroom and when we have science classes in the garden. So I think that they are aware.
Great. So I'm gonna just take this over to you, Danny, and you can bounce off of that. But I'm gonna add this to our conversation. How do we support or collaborate with our cafeteria food service managers to serve school lunch or breakfast? So how do we make this more of this school design and collaboration from top and bottom?
For us, it was really easy. Auntie Priscilla Galan, for one, her mother was in the cafeteria, she says, 30, 40 years ago, and so she, Auntie Silla, the current school cafeteria manager, she remembers her mom and her aunties and everyone who's in the cafeteria crew cooking from scratch. So earlier when Ming Wei was talking about that school gardens was a thing of the past in Hawaii, in America, so it's like we're bringing it back. Auntie Silla was like another champion, and I know that that's a hard sell if there's a cafeteria manager or an administrator. Those are the two most important people in the whole farm-to-school, mostly the farm-to-school garden-to-cafeteria program. If one or the other, if they're not on board, it's hard. But Auntie Silla was on board, and of course I was on board, and that made it really easy. Chef Greg from Beyond Green Partners, who was contracted to reintroduce scratch cooking and also bring in all the measurements and retraining the aunties, and he got trained himself too. That was a different story, but nonetheless, once they came to a happy medium and Chef Greg understood the culture of the kitchen, then it was game on. And the aunties, he reorganized the kitchen. He called it, they went from, help me out here, Dexter. They went from like isolated prepping to, as he was describing, to collaborative. And I said, oh, like Pake restaurant kind, Chinese restaurant style, right? Where so they would come in the morning and they're all around a big table and they're all prepping. And everything is scratch cooking. But nonetheless, the collaborative piece was me supporting Silla, and Silla coming to my office often to ask questions. She supported it, but there were times when it's like, Danny, what are we doing? I'm getting pushback, help me out here. So me being able, Silla and I having those conversations, and then kind of, bringing Chef Greg in. So the three of us, we met often to just discuss what's going on, how do we want to do this, how do we want to work it, what works for you, what's our goal. But it's definitely the administrator and the cafeteria manager being on the same page.
Great.
Yeah.
Dex, did you want to
No,
say anything
I
more
think
about that?
that's
Ray,
well
did
said.
you want to speak to?
Sure.
Who do you get pushback from?
Who do you get pushback from?
Deal with that.
And how do you deal with that? Questions coming from the panel to the panel.
Well, there were other schools where they didn't. The scratch cooking is tremendous, and of course the formula to gaining the staff, it's just number, it's plates, how many plates, right? And so it's very right, typical DOE, do the most with the least. And so scratch cooking, like for example, Chef Greg was an extra body. He brought 1 or 2 extra bodies, and so that's not the typical cafeteria staff. So with scratch cooking on a typical cafeteria staff, the amount of prep work involved is tremendous. So that was the first thing when the aunties were like, we can't do this without one more body, two more bodies. And so that was the biggest pushback. And at other schools that they tried it, there was pushback that we can't do this, we're not gonna do this. Yeah.
Great. So we could have an entire half day just around Aina Pono, but we just wanted you folks to know that this is happening, that really amazing things are happening in School Food Service Branch, that the entire department is committed to buying more local and getting more nutrition education into the schools to help with the consumption of the fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm going to turn the conversation now. I have a lot of cards that are around budgets and academic plans. So how do you make space in school budgets for more dedicated garden teachers? And then another, I'll just couple these together, and maybe Ray and Danny might be able to both go to these. What did you write into your academic plan or financial plan regarding garden-based learning?
Real briefly, number one, because the budget comes through me in collaboration with the faculty and the staff, it's a buy-in with the entire faculty and staff. Like I said, I had to propose, going back to the PTT the first year, that's about $13,000 a year. Small school, 300 students, between 300 and 400 students. So it's, if you have that budget, and like if it was a school where they want to go into the tech direction or they want to go into some other major program, for us, the garden program, it was an easy sell. So you get the collaboration, you write it in, and you set aside the money. And then even with this Article 6 position, I had to pitch that to the teachers, making sure that was okay with my faculty and staff. But if you got the money from weighted student formula, you're able to set it aside. You can't really use Title I, but and then there's donations, grants.
You have a slide, yeah, with all that? You did, yeah?
I did, yeah. You want to add to that?
Addressing academic plan. What we did was we put it in on the student success part for student success for whole child learning, and coupled it up with science and STEAM, right? And so it was STEAM in the garden. We also put the budget in on professional development, so staff success. And so we could get some PD that met multiple goals. So PD in the garden meets multiple goals for us as a whole child arts integration school. And then that's also how we allocated the student success part, was how we allocated our PTT and got that funding. But we really rely on Maui School Garden Network and Grow Some Good, which are our local garden education groups, and the PD that comes through Kuaina Pa and Kokua, Hawai'i is just amazing.
Great. Did you want to add anything to that? Okay. And so there's a lot of questions about, there are a lot of questions in the room about this. So I hope you guys don't mind. I'm just going to move a little bit on and pose this question to Danny. So Danny, as you saw, there's no principals in the room. So we don't have any people here in this room that are making the budget. So how can we help principals to know, care, invest, or encourage garden-based or agriculture education? What can these guys do today or tomorrow when they go back to school and have these conversations with their principals?
Don't go in these next 2 weeks.
Did you guys hear that?
The last thing we want is unannounced, unexpected appointments, dealing with, right. But, and then I'd say in June, not July, in June, really that first week in June, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, right after teachers leave and campus quiets down, in a real, with your best aloha spirit, going to, make an appointment, ask if you can sit down and simply have the conversation, bringing up, hey, I went to this, garden-based learning symposium, and whether they have it already, how to expand it, offer your service. What can I do to help? What can we do? I hear about great programs across the state, and just have that conversation with the school principal. And if you know the cafeteria manager yourself, go talk to the cafeteria manager, ask them if you know about the Aina Pono, farm to school programs, but go in, make an appointment, and speak to the principal and the cafeteria manager. And if there's a small garden program, who's the garden teacher, just ask questions and let them know, how you're feeling about building a program or expanding a program.
I want to add to that. Change happens with the teachers and the classrooms. So I would say, while you have administration, yes, but the administration is informed by classrooms and teachers. So you got to build value with the teachers, and the teachers will build value with the children. And when you have enough critical mass in your school that values that kind of whole child healthy living and learning in the garden, then they're going to keep bringing it up, and that's how the change happens. Administrators will listen. I mean, for the most part, no offense here, but for the most part, right? Everybody wants what's best for kids. It's just that I think that teachers in schools get bogged down with the to-do list, with, all the reports you got to do, and the tests and the assessments and yada, yada, yada. So I would say if you're going in as an individual in your school, to do one teacher at a time, because exponentially that grows really quickly. It really does.
Great. Tyler, were you able to go into the garden unsupervised when you were at Kohala? And did you do that like during breaks or recess? Can you just share what that might have looked like?
My teachers were very understanding of me, and the garden was close to the school classrooms, so yes, I could go if I needed to, and if the teachers would if they wanted to go with me, they could go with me. If I needed help, they would help me in the garden, but at recess I'd just go in the garden alone, and it was nice to have my time with the plants, but it was not unsafe in the sense that there's teachers around in the classrooms and the school area.
And then one of the other questions, I know on a lot of school campuses there's concern and instances of vandalism. And some of the vandalism at school gardens happens from outside the community. And sometimes some of the students on campus don't really value the gardens. And so do you have any experience with your fellow students disrespecting the garden? And how would you help to remedy some of that?
I kind of so spending a lot of my time in the garden, there was some kids that would come by and wonder what was going on, and because they would see this garden growing and they had no idea about it, because I created a garden separate from the whole school garden, and that garden I would let students come in to when I was there, and they could harvest if they wanted to. I didn't really have any invasion of the space to respecting the earth in that sense. I was pretty open to everyone who really wanted to just come and experience the garden.
Thanks,
For
Tyler.
me, yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. And now I'm just going to pose a couple questions here to our educators. And so this is more like the logistics of it all. So are SPED pullouts done for garden time without jeopardizing classroom structured activities? Do you see all the kids in one day? What What does this look like as far as you being the garden educator?
So I am part of a rotation, and every classroom teacher has time to work together. What is that called, POC? Yeah. So I am one of those teachers. The students come to me for 40 minutes, and we have 3 classes in each grade, with the exception of 4th grade this year. And so they have counseling or library, but garden is a constant. So almost every week, I get to see every child in the school, pre-K through 5th grade, for 40 minutes. Then in the afternoon times, teachers sign up for a block of time for STEM or STEAM. The A is also not only for art, but for Ina. That's right. We'll have to call it STEAM. So the teachers sign up for that time, and so I think they work around those schedules. We also have some garden therapy that goes on, where teachers bring students down to the garden or send students down to the garden to spend time with me on special projects. Those kids that just really respond to nature. And so we try to keep the garden as open as possible. We have classes that just come down. Our garden is very large, so teachers can just come down with their classes and do writing and reading, or just chilling in the garden. Sometimes we just need to chill in nature.
Great. So I'm getting my 1-minute warning, but I would like to just offer the panelists maybe 10 to 20 seconds to just say anything like burning that you didn't get a chance to say. Maybe we'll start with Dexter. Ready, go.
Thank you all very much for what you do. What you do is really key to doing my job. So keep doing your job, so my job is really easy. Thank you.
Let's all recruit more principals to be here next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to start a school garden. You can start very small. We were just at a preschool where they had a very tiny garden, but they did big things with this garden. So don't be afraid to start small. Our model gardens look so big and it can be intimidating. You can even start, like our kindergarten teacher at our table, with little cups and beautiful sunflowers. And so much learning took place in your classroom.
I'm going to piggyback on that. In starting small, because if you look at the big garden, it's like a humongous job, right? Spread the joy of gardens. Spread the joy of getting your hands in dirt. Model for the kids getting your hands in dirt. And it changes. It just changes everything.
So much gratitude is flowing through me for all of you guys and everything that you do, and how you're so open to this beautiful change of really opening your heart up to nature, because it's such a beautiful aspect of life, and we're all connected to the Mother Earth. Without her, we wouldn't be here. So please continue on this path of growth. Thank you.
Fantastic.